This episode will be completely taken out of context. Welcome to the Fact Check This podcast.
All right, off to a little bit of a late start today. Got both kids sick, and it's another snowstorm that started, so lots of fun around here. And because of all that, I'm going to try to keep today's a little bit on the shorter side. I'm going to go do something right quick while I'm thinking about it. So I teased it yesterday, so we're going to talk about Trump did a press conference, and as is often the case, the mainstream media journalists who were there asked I would say a dumb question. It's not a question that they would ever ask Obama or Biden or probably like literally anybody else ever, period. In fact, we'll get to it. I have examples. So anyway, let's jump right into the outrage of the week or of the day or maybe of the hour. Trump's response to tariff questions flagged as a very revealing moment. The president insists it's going to go well. I have no doubt, as a matter of fact. President Donald Trump seems to expect Americans to take his word for it that his tariffs plan will work out well for them. Trump on Thursday announced he was imposing reciprocal tariffs on trade partners, a plan that could easily backfire and drive up prices for American consumers. The president was asked during a press conference if he would direct agencies to study the impact these tariffs would have on prices in the U.S. No, there's nothing to study, Trump replied. It's going to go well. The United States is going to become a very, very strong economic country, he added. It was reminiscent of his repeated claims in 2020 that COVID-19 was just going to go away. I mean, it did. Granted, it probably took longer than it should have, but it did.
Reciprocal tariffs, would you also direct agencies to study the impact they would have on prices in the U.S.?
No, there's nothing to study. It's going to go well. The United States is going to become a very, very strong economically country. Yeah.
Very, very Trumpian. A clip of Thursday's moment posted on X was viewed more than 1 million times and attracted substantial backlash. And we're back to typical left-wing journalisming. Most of the article is made up of quotes from tweets or posts on X. This exchange is going to slip by and go uncovered, but this is a very revealing moment, the Tennessee Holler, a progressive news site, said of the comment on X. The Tennessee Holler. Jesus Christ. All right. Trump's government won't study anything. They'll just tell us everything is going to go great no matter who gets hurt. 1984 is upon us. I don't think you know anything about the book 1984, just based on what I know of the left. But thank you for your 2 cents, you fucking retard. Tahara Jahari, the director of economic analysis at the Chamber of Progress Tech Industry Coalition, had a more blunt take. I hope Doge finds out that the Chamber of Progress Tech Industry Coalition and the Department of Economic Analyses at this, whatever the fuck it is actually being funded by USAID and just cuts it. That might be the dumbest shit I think I've ever read in one sentence. Director of Economic Analysis at the Chamber of Progress Tech Industry Coalition. What the fuck does that even mean? Tahara Jahari has just a really hot take on this. There's nothing to study since it does not impact me because I am rich. That's like, see, this is this typical socialist leftist, like brain rot dumbassery. Trump argues that tariffs are a way for the country to push back against top trade partners that he claims are ripping the U.S. off with regard to trade, crime, and poisonous drugs. Earlier this month, he announced that he would impose a 25% tariff on goods from Canada and Mexico and 10% on those from China, prompting those countries to declare retaliatory tariffs. The tariffs against the two U.S. neighbors are on pause for 30 days amid negotiations that could take effect in March. Thursday's announcement applies more broadly to other countries globally. He has said his advisors would come up with new tariff levels for trade partners based on the taxes and levies they charge, which he deems unfair. Economists worry the plan could worsen inflation and set off a costly trade war. Suddenly, for no reason at all, just because of, economic viability, suddenly they're really worried about inflation. Nobody gave a fuck about the price of eggs or inflation or any of that shit for 4 fucking years with Joe Biden. But now they're really, really worried about it. Trump's lack of interest in looking into the plan's potential impact was not received well on social media. I sincerely could not give a single solitary fuck how anybody on social media receives anything ever. Here's the thing. We'll go back and we'll look at the comments of the dipshits in a moment. But here's the thing. They never questioned Joe Biden about how would Build Back Better, if they would do a study on that to see how that worked. What was the COVID relief plan? If they would do a study to see how that affected things, if they would do a study to see how the Green New Deal shit that they pushed through, how that would affect anything. Nobody asked about doing studies to see how any of this stuff would impact anything. And also nobody questioned why everything went so fucking bad for 4 fucking years. Ever. Not a single solitary time did they ever question anything. It was all just... and not only did they not question it, but they blatantly lied through their fucking teeth and said, oh, it's not actually that bad. You're just mistaken. By the way, I need to find this article and talk about it. There is literally an article that has come out where the economists have said, the same economists that are saying that, the Trump tax, they're really worried about inflation now with Trump and the taxes, or Trump and the tariffs. The economists have said, actually, it really was that bad. We were wrong. Like when we were telling you, the economy's not that bad, you're wrong. When we look at the metrics, it's actually really good. They have now come out and said, well, it was actually that bad. In fact, not only was it that bad, it might have actually been worse. Like nobody's gonna say anything about that though. Just like the jobs numbers that they reported, these jobs numbers that everybody knew were absolute, complete, and total horseshit, and then came back and it turned out that they over-reported their jobs numbers by like literally 1 million fucking jobs over the course of a year. Nobody questions any of that. Like, where's the study on that? Where are the dipshits on social media, the leftist dipshits on social media, asking the questions? Well, are you going to study that? Or where's the study for that? Are you going to study that? No, that ain't. The incredible thing is the left doesn't care that they're hypocrites. That it's not a problem. You can't call them out on it because they don't fucking care. They don't know any other way to be. The only thing that matters, they understand the game, and the game is that you win. And if you don't win, then nothing else fucking matters. And they understand that. So they don't care about being hypocrites. They don't care about saying dumb bullshit. They don't care if they piss people off. They don't care about any of that stuff. All they care about is do whatever is necessary to lie, cheat, steal, and win. And the right needs to figure that out. And that's why Trump is a breath of fresh air, because he will say the shit that makes people mad. He's not trying to just get along all the time. And that's why people actually have like moved in his direction instead of, sticking around with the establishment type Republicans that have no fucking spine. But back to the article. We'll look at some of there's nothing to study. Right. Instead of learning and asking questions, just sign it into existence with a jumbo black marker. Very 1984. Do you have any fucking clue what's in the book? I got it on the shelf. Like, I feel like I should just read 1984 for like a series, because clearly these motherfuckers don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Now, the surveillance state, and everything else that went on, like COVID and post-COVID, there's a lot of 1984 vibes in a lot of that shit. This, I don't, what? Okay, I guess. Aside from internal public perception measurements, there will be no government verified data or studies we can trust anymore anyway. There was never any government verified data or studies that you could trust anyway. Ever. Y'all are just now catching on? Like, this is the great thing is, oh, you don't think there's going to be verified government data and studies that you can trust now? Maybe you should go back and look at, like, I don't know, the last 40 years. Just for example, just saying. Even a king would direct his subjects to identify the potential impacts of an order. I don't even know what the fuck that's supposed to mean. This dude thinks he sounds smart while actually just sounding like a complete and total dumbass. Trumpism in a nutshell. Okay. Trump, there's nothing to study. Just believe whatever I say. You cannot exist. You're getting sleepy. Your eyes are drooping. Believe me, believe me, believe me. That's what you motherfuckers did with Fauci and the COVID shit. Y'all do get that, right? No, they don't get that. They don't get that. They don't care. They have no concern about being hypocrites. They have no concern about being wrong. They just need to be loud. Because what they've learned over the last 10 years or so is whoever's the loudest will get the most attention and will get their way. It doesn't matter what you say, if you say is right. If you have the numbers to back you, as long as you're the loudest. So that's what this is. And what's really crazy about this is so they keep making the 1984 references. They keep making, that they won't study anything, or that you can't trust the studies, or like, have they not? Okay, they haven't. They absolutely do not know anything about history. They pay no attention. They don't know. And they don't want to know. Because if they actually knew anything about history, they would understand how fucking moronic they are. It's absolutely insane. And so they'll keep making these same references to 1984 and, talk about how, there's the studies are, you can't trust the studies when everything that happened through all of COVID that they were 100% on board with, they were 100% backing. It's the same fucking thing. Actually, it's much more accurate to the thing that they're talking about than Trump saying we're not going to do a study on the tariffs. Also, because the tariffs are largely a bluff. He's using the tariffs as a tool to get things from these countries, to get them to bend to certain things that he wants to accomplish with his administration. And the tariffs are a means to the end. Now, the China tariffs, I think that'll actually go through. But that's also why they're 10%, not the 25% that he's talking about for like Canada and Mexico and some others. Those are the legitimate tariffs. The ones that are like the higher percentage rates, those are being used as weapons. Those are being used to achieve something that he wants, to get these people to come to the table to negotiate, because they know that the trade deficit does not work in their favor for this. We are a net importer. So these countries need to send us stuff more than we need to send them stuff. So their retaliatory tariffs are not going to work in the way that they think they will, or in the way that the leftists think they will. And as far as like the price of stuff going up, okay. The price of a bunch of junk shit from China going up, if that pushes towards more American manufacturing down the road, or towards more affordable American-made products in the short term, as the tariffs push up the price of... Okay, so here's the thing. Let's talk about tariffs. And this is how tariffs work in this particular instance, especially when you're talking about the China thing. And this goes back to the misconceptions about the cause of the Civil War. So in the early 1800s, the South was prosperous and booming. You had huge agriculture, lots of stuff going on. And the South was exporting literally metric tons of products to Europe. And in return, Europe was then sending back all of the stuff that the South needed. The manufactured goods type stuff. Well, around this same time, the northern states are going fucking bankrupt. They're trying to get American industry up and off the ground and running. And what they really need is for the South to buy their American-made stuff in these big industrial hubs in the North. Except that the South has absolutely no inclination to do that, because they can get all of that same stuff from Europe for cheaper in exchange for the stuff that they're sending over to Europe. So there's an excellent trade flow going on in the South. And it's contributing to the bankruptcy of the North, because they can't get anybody to buy the shit that they're making. So what do? They impose tariffs. The tariffs then have the intent to drive the price of the imported goods up so that the South will buy the goods from the North. The problem that they had post-Civil War or pre-Civil War was that the tariff rates that they were putting on the stuff coming over was astronomical. It would bankrupt the South, but also the North didn't have the ability to get the stuff to the South effectively and efficiently, and it still wasn't all that much cheaper. So there were a number of different compromises that were made from the 20s up through the 50s that explicitly dealt with the tariff rates and how economic situations were going to be handled between the North and the South to get goods moving south, and to cut down on the amount of imports coming in so that we could have American-made business and have it work for everybody. The problem was that every time they made one of these compromises and these agreements to slowly raise tariffs while also ramping up the amount of Northern American made products that were coming to the South to create a balance, the Northern politicians, because that's where they had the population hubs, and so they had control of the House and the Senate because they had the most people with the House, and there were actually more states because of New England is just little tiny states, so they have more states and more people, so they had control of the House and Senate. And so every time they made one of these compromises, what would inevitably happen was the northern politicians, I almost said Democrats, and that would have been wrong. The northern politicians would come in and say, yeah, we're not going to honor that, and jack up the tariffs to like 40, 50, 60% and blow the whole fucking thing out of the water. And so that's what actually led to the Civil War, was because they kept breaking their promises with these compromises on the tariffs and just fuck the South over over and over again. There were literally 3 separate times where they did the exact same thing. And I mean, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, can't be fooled again, as George W. said. And then, you know, then you do it a third time. It's like, well, fuck you then. We're just going to leave. And that's what happened. So anyway, that's the point of the tariffs, is if done properly, to raise the price of the cheap imported goods and make it more affordable to buy the American-made goods. And also, if that brings manufacturing back from overseas, cool too. So anyway, I hope anybody listening or watching got anything out of any of that. I think all that shit's interesting. And like, my son and daughter have both done segments in school about the Civil War, and I've gone through this whole thing about an hour and a half worth of like just looking at all the different compromises and who wrote the compromises and like the time frame from like 1820 up to 1860 and how it all played out. It's all really interesting. Also, interestingly enough, my daughter, the school that she goes to, whenever they did their section on it, she goes to the smart kid school. Their teacher actually led it off with, actually, slavery was a dying institution, and a lot of the Civil War, while there was a lot of deal made about that, somewhat during and a lot after the fact, slavery was not really the reason that the Civil War happened. And then we told them all of the stuff that I had already told my daughter. So like she already knew what he was going to talk about. So that was pretty cool. Anyway, I went a lot longer than I thought I would. See, this is what happened. You get me talking about the Civil War, and we're liable to be here for the rest of the day. But I can't do that because I do have sick children to tend to, and you know, snowpocalypse is upon me. So anyway, that is all I've got for today. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you got something out of this, or you know, you just enjoy listening to me cuss and rant. That'll do it for me. Tomorrow is going to be a toss-up because it's going to depend on the weather and school and a lot of other things. So I have every intention of being back tomorrow. But if I'm not, I apologize, and we'll try again on Thursday. But I feel pretty good about it. I actually feel pretty good about it because I'm almost 100% positive. So this isn't even the storm. The storm is supposed to happen at like 6 o'clock this evening. This is just like the warm-up, and it's already getting pretty nasty out there. So I'm almost positive that the kids are not going to have school tomorrow, and I'm going to be sitting right here all day tomorrow. So if that's the case, I will see you then. Later.